Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, please click on like and subscribe. If you've been here before, welcome back. Now today we're going to be building a 3-step stool out of white oak. I've done another video on this recently, doing this out of cherry, and I think I did one out of walnut. I've got a customer requesting one that's a little bit more sturdy, so we're going to make this out of 1-inch material, not 3/4. So I'm going to use the same plans that I have. It'll be similar to the same video, so I'll probably fast forward through a lot of this. But just so you know, it's a heavier, bulkier material, and there are a few things I'm going to change as I'm making this. Again, one of the big changes I'm making is I'm making this 1-inch diameter material or 1-inch diameter stock. My plans are all drawn out for 3/4, so that's going to change my width a little bit of the steps. I think I'm going to leave the steps the same width and all the dimensions the same. Now the steps are not going to have the overhang they did before, but again, I'm making this to hold more weight and be more sturdy, so it's still going to look good, but it's going to not look the same as normal. Now I've gone through the big pile of white oak I had, and I've got it separated out into the pieces I'm going to be cutting down. So I've got my pieces all laid out here as on my diagram: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and we're just going to start running them through the planer now and plane them down to 1 inch. I'm going to skip a bunch of this because it took quite a while to plane this down. Again, with the white oak, this is a small shop planer. It's not really made for white oak, I don't think. You have to go really small passes. If not, you'll just grind it up or tear your teeth up. So I have to make a lot of small passes on here just to get everything to go through. Plus some of the wood has some burl on it, which makes it even harder. It'll be perfect for the customer. It'll look beautiful, but as far as my planer goes, just have to take a little bit more time to run it all through. And so about an hour of planing, we're about finished with everything. Again, I cut a lot of it just so you don't have to watch the same thing over and over, and I've got nothing to say during that. And here's our finished pieces after they've been planed to the proper size. Now they're not cut to the right sizes yet, but they are planed to 1 inch. So what I'm doing now is we're going to push them through and we're going to cut them to the right sizes. The first thing when I'm cutting these, I have to take off the rough edge on the outside. That way when I flip them over, I've got a nice clean cut on the outside. And I'm not starting with a rough edge on one side or the other. So basically everything goes through at once, gets the edge cut off, go back through, measure the dimensions, and then cut it to the size it needs to be. As you can tell by the pile down by my feet there, I've cut out a lot of this video also. Again, this was just another hour of just processing pieces, getting them down to the sizes that I need, and then I'm going to lay them back out in the order that I've got them on my diagram. Again, that's A through J. That's my part numbers. That way I can make sure I've got everything I want and I've got all my pieces done. Now this is something else that I changed on this. Since the boards are 1 inch thick and they're made out of oak, I'm going to put a couple pocket screws in a couple of these places. Now this is the top platform or the top step. So on the top side, you're not going to see these pocket screws. And since I don't have a piece of oak that's wide, I'm joining those two pieces together. Again, it will seat up perfectly fine. We're going to put screws down through it into the frame also. So the pocket screws are probably extra and not needed, but I'm putting them in there anyhow. And here, I'm just joining the boards together. I've got to do the same thing with the swing frames at the bottom here where the legs are. I have to join two pieces together. Again, it's white oak. It'll hold plenty of weight, but just in case, a couple pocket screws can't hurt it. I'm going to join these together. As you can see, I'm putting a couple clamps on there to make sure they stay straight. I'm putting a clamp on the end of them to keep them coming apart when I put them together. And they're still going to stay clamped up just like they would anything else, probably for 24 hours or so. Now, if you've worked with oak before, you know it's not forgiving. It's really hard to work with. And I'm on the ends of the board here where the saw left some saw marks on it. Instead of trying to sand that out, I'm just going to run them through the planer. It's easier to get the edges off. Here I'm just cutting my angles out for my frames. This is part A, part B, part C, and part D. So that's my frames and my legs. And then I'm going to cut my support pieces off next. And after I get that done, there's my supports of my A-frames. Working on the steps now. So I'm just making 2 steps that are equally sized. These are 5 3/4 inches. By 12, and I'm just going to make sure they're both the same size. In the top here, I'm going to put pocket screws in also. 2 reasons to do pocket screws. One, it's going to get painted, so the pocket screw covers will be covered and you won't see them anyhow. And to try to do a mortise and tenon in 1-inch oak is going to be really difficult, and I'm not sure that's going to support it anymore. Again, we're glued and we're screwed, so we should be fine. I'm making the 1-inch dowel rod. This will be for the pivot point. So we make our own dowel rods here also. The next thing I'm going to do after I've let that dry overnight is to cut out the shape. So I'm going to cut the frames out. And I'm going to make sure that these are both exactly the same. And I'm just going to take this and cut it as far as I can and finish the cut with the bandsaw. And I've got those taped together so they're both identical. And same with drilling the hole. I'm going to drill the hole through both of them at the same exact time. That way I know everything stays in place and my pivot points won't move. I won't be up or down 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, and end up with a wobble. And then everything gets sanded. I'm going to delete that too because that took hours of sanding to get that stuff sanded down. Next step is to drill the recess in the leg for the pivot point. And that's going to go in 3/4 of an inch. So I've got that measured on the drill press. We're just test fitting a piece in there to make sure it fits, make sure the depth's correct. Just a quick measurement to make sure I'm good. And then we're going to go over to the steps and we're going to just start rounding over the steps. So I'm going to round these over, and I don't know if I cut it out of the video or not, but in a second you'll see me give it that kind of oh crap look or what the look, because one of the corners chip out on this, and it happens. But instead of trying to fix it, I just went over and made another step out of it. Looks like I did cut that out. So if you do have a blemish or something like that, it's normal with wood. Wood's not perfect. A lot of times you can fix it. In this case, it blew out a pretty good chunk of it, so I just made another step. It was easier. Plus the customer will be a lot happier with it. And the assembly of the pocket screws is pretty simple. Basically, we're going to put this piece in, clamp it together, run the pocket screws in, leave the clamps on while the glue dries, and then remove it. Glue on both ends. Get our measurement correct, make sure it's even on both sides, make sure it's flat to the tabletop so it's not sticking up on one side or the other and you have to sand it. Once you get it all set, run your screws in. You got to be careful with the oak. You have to run the screw in, pull it back out, run it back in, pull it back out to keep from breaking your screw off in the oak. The oak is extremely brutal on drill bits and on pieces like that. Then we're just going to use some plug hole covers, cover them up, wipe off the excess glue, and then sand them down when they're done. That's something else you don't see really much in the video, but these pieces get sanded over and over. So every time there's a step done, there's usually some sanding or some cleaning done in between. It would just be boring and monotonous for you to see me sanding every single time we do it, but there's a lot of work done behind the scenes that you're not even seeing. And again, for further detailed one, if you watch the video, if you want to know how to make this on how I do the cherry one or the walnut one, either one, and it'll give you a little bit more details on how to build them. This I'm just showing for the customer basically to see. And so you can see a couple different steps of assembly that you might not have caught on the first one. So I'm putting the rod in first. I'm clamping it down and making sure my legs on the back of my A-frames and my pivot point fit perfectly to the ground or to the flat surface. If you've got a wobble, now's the time to fix it before you start gluing everything in place and realizing that your front legs don't touch the same as your back legs, or when you pull the front legs down, it raises the back legs up. If you have something like that, address the problem way before you start gluing it together. Then we're just going to glue it together. Like I said, I'm double checking my measurements here because again, this is thicker than what I normally use. It's a 1/4 inch thicker, but it's a 1/4 inch on each side, which makes it 1/2 inch thicker. So it makes my clearances a little bit more tighter than I normally have. So next thing, I can take all my clamps off, and then again, just sand off any excess glue or anything that'll be in the way for putting my stairs on. I'm going to put my stop on last for the stairs after I get the stairs glued in place. That way I know where to put it at. If you put it in too soon, especially on something that you're not familiar with the measurements, when you go to swing that up, and I've done it before and had to remove it, is you might actually hit the pivot point on a piece of wood when you're going up. So get the stairs on before you put the stop on it. I'm recessing some screws in here now. As you can see, I'm using a Forstner bit because normally I use a little drill bit with a countersink bit. The oak is not going to have it. It's going to snap your bit off every single time, well, most of the time, unless you buy super expensive bits. So it's easier just to use a Forstner bit and then drill a pilot hole down the middle. I run my screws in there, and then I've got some blanks here that I'm going to put in here. and I'm going to glue those in, tap them in place. As you can see, I've got my seat there. I'm just going to check my measurement on this, make sure everything clears, mark my spot. As you can see there, if I get it too low, that's going to hit when I go up. I'm going to cut my 20-degree angle in this because that's what I need for that to sit on. I'm going to raise the bottom of it up enough that it clears, and then I'm going to make sure when I glue it in place that it swings through like that. So I'm putting a clamp underneath of both sides. That'll keep me nice and even where I want it at. It'll keep me from going down below to where I'm hitting at. And I'm not going to put any screws in that. That's just a stop. It shouldn't have any support. It shouldn't need any super weight on or any screws. If you feel better about throwing a screw in there, feel free to throw a screw in it, but it's not going to help or hinder. I'm going to cut my tabs off now. Once I get my little tabs cut off, we're back to the sander again, and we're going to sand all those things down to where they're nice and smooth. Now this is the part you normally won't see me doing, that is painting anything. I really don't like to paint. It's still pretty cool here. It's not too bad during the day. I'm a little bit slow right now this week, so I've got time to paint. Normally I don't have time to paint, but this is going to get painted black. The entire thing gets painted black, including the steps. I just set it on there just so you can see the difference. If you wanted to two-tone this, you could. It looks beautiful either way, but I'm going to go ahead and put the seats on. I'm going to attach them, and then we're going to paint the rest of it up. Now I took this inside to finish painting it because, as you can see in the garage, there's all kinds of stuff blowing around. And when I go to put the final coat of paint on it, it's going to have little pieces of stuff stuck all over it. And here's our finished product. This project took 5 days to complete. Of course, I was doing other things on the side, but it took a lot of time to get this project done just because of what it is. It weighs about 26 pounds when it's finished. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please click on like, subscribe, and drop a comment below and let me know what you think.